Hey everyone, happy Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday. Come on in the room, come on in, say hi, let me know you're here. It's kind of a gloomy day outside, but listen, we're gonna heat it up in here a little bit today. I'm just inviting a couple of people before I get started. How about you invite a couple of people before I get started? Y'all be trying to make me talk about myself, but I'd rather have a conversation. So come on and hop on in so we could talk about a few things. How was your day? Come in and say hi to me so I know you're here. Go ahead and let me know that, how's your day been? Good, bad, or indifferent? You know? See you come in, I'm gonna say hi, because that's what I do. That's what I do. Just a few more, and then I'm gonna start. And if you're saying hi, I'm gonna see you in a second. Just doing a few more things here. Y'all get real quiet like y'all shy. I know half of y'all not shy, so I need y'all to say hi to me. Say something so we can have a good old combo today, y'all. It's called Conversations with Paris, from Paris, however you want to say it. So I need y'all to talk with me. All right, let's get started. Who all is here? Hey, Kiana girl. Hey. How you, sis? Hey, Auntie Cynthia. Love you. Julia, how are you? You said a relaxing day. Good. You deserve it. Girl, sometimes when you got kids and all that stuff going on, you need a relaxing day. So I'm glad that you are having a good day. That's what I like to hear. It looks like my mom is here. Hey, Mom. How are you? Hey, Daquita girl. How you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. So, again, I hope you guys just come in. Let me know you're here. If it's somebody that I don't know, please say hi. If somebody referred you, I had somebody that, shared my video the other day and I didn't even know them. And I was just like, that's super honoring. Like, for somebody to think enough to share my video, they got something from it. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. Literally, you can say something that can make somebody else's day great or better or whatever. And that's the goal. You don't have to know it all, just to change one person. That's all. That's the goal. Hey, D'Angelo, how are you, huh? So, let me start because I don't want to be here all day. I'm sure that you saw my topic. And so, y'all, I really do try to come with stuff I think is relevant. And so I said, what can I talk about today? It's always something to talk about. But today, I feel like this has hit everyone. And probably, I'm sure somebody on here that is feeling this right now as we speak. Do you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders? And I know that sounds so cliche to say, but let's talk about it, right? Because I hear some people like saying that that's just adulting, that's just life. And I don't think it is always, right? So we have to break down what that feels like. And first of all, we have to acknowledge that you feel that way, right? We've all felt that way. I felt that way. It happens. You just have to figure out why it's happening. Figure out if the reasons why it's happening is normal or if it's something that's abnormal, right? Hi, Adam. Hey, Jamie. So again, the weight of the world on your shoulders. Hi, Otis. The reality is nobody should really feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. So when someone says that, it's a good metaphor so you can kind of understand that they feel like they're overburdened. Look at LaVale, my buddy on here. Look at you coming on my actual broadcast. Look at you being nice. But like when people use that, they use it so you can quantify it, right? The weight of the world on someone's shoulders obviously is too much, right? For anybody. And the reality is if you feel that way, generally speaking, the topic was, do you ever feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders? So if you do feel that way, the reason people say that is so you can understand they have too much on them. And sometimes people try to normalize it. And I don't like that, right? Because when you try to normalize when someone says it, you need to understand that they use that metaphor as a cry of help or to express themselves. Either way, it's their truth, it's their reality, whether you agree with it, because you don't have to agree with it, right? When you do understand that, then you can break down and say, well, what is the possibility that that's a true thing for them, right? Because if we talk about the metaphor, the weight of the world on you, on your shoulders, means that literally it's something crushing you. So the next time you hear somebody say that, don't dismiss it. Don't be dismissive about it. And if it's you, I'm not being dismissive of it. It's a real thing. Let's talk about it. It's not just adulting. Like, life happens, but we always have to talk about what it is, because guess what? Something can be done about most of it. Not all the time. Some stuff you just got to deal with, but some stuff you can deal with, right? Jillian, you say, I feel like I always have up too much. Everything always falls on me. Right, Jillian. And like I said, that's a real thing. We have to be honest and talk about these moments, because I think there's a lot of people living silently, like they constantly feel like they're being crushed under the responsibilities and the weight of the world. And I think this is why people suddenly end up excommunicating themselves with people, moving away. You ever have somebody go ghost on you, or you ever have somebody move and they don't say anything to you? You ever hear about somebody that suddenly committed suicide? And you're like, I thought everything was okay. I thought everything was all right. Man, sometimes the weights of the world literally crush people. And they're suffering silently because we try to normalize, or we try to talk about, well, that's just adulting. This is just what life is. And I just think it's more to it than that. So let's talk about it. So I feel like in your life, depending on what your responsibilities are, there are sometimes a plethora of things that you have to deal with, right? So let's say, number one, if I'm an adult, most than likely, unless I have some type of inheritance that was given to me, I have to work, or I have to provide some type of form of income for myself to survive, right? So that's one weight, right? Provision. That's what I call that. That's the provision weight, okay? And if you happen to be married and or living with someone and or having kids, you're providing for more than one person. So not only do you have to provide for yourself, you have to provide for multiple people. So that's one weight. And depending on how many more people you have to provide for, that's additional weight on you, okay? So you have the provisional weight. Then you have the weight of the responsibilities, right? So let's say if I live by myself, I have an apartment or a room or a house, and I have to make sure that I have my house clean and or make sure I, wash clothes. I'm just thinking, like, literally, I'm giving you guys examples of some of the things you have to do, responsibility. And like, if you have a family, you have to do it not just for you, you have to do it for everyone in that family. Then if you have to, pay other bills, even if you have the money, it's still the responsibility of designating the money, which is usually called like budgeting and financial planning. We don't really talk about it. They don't teach about it. And that's a whole thing in itself, right? So even if you have the money, getting the money to the right place is a whole nother skill. I'm sure people can really relate to that, right? I've known people who have a lot of money and they still are late paying their bills because they just are not organized in that way. They're not thinking about it, and they don't make the steps to be responsible, or they don't have the tools to be efficient in that way. And so sometimes they hire people out to do it, but if you can't hire anybody, that's something that's your responsibility, right? So then you have food. I know it sounds like no big deal. Like, I think in America, we are really spoiled because for the most part, we don't know what it's like to be starving. But the reality is there are a lot of people that do have problems figuring out what to eat. And they don't ever talk about it because it's a shameful thing. While you worried about if we're going to McDonald's or Wendy's or Portillo's, or if I want to go to the crab place, it's somebody saying, hey, when is the next food line open? I need to get a box, and if I got to stand in line for 2 hours to get a box for my family, then that's what I'll do. These are things that people don't talk about, and I think we shame people into believing it's just adulting. It's something that you should be able to do. It's something that should not be a big deal, and therefore people don't talk about it, and they are crushed literally under the weight of their responsibility. So we have provisional responsibility. We have the responsibility of around the house and around making sure that things are done that's necessary in our life. And then you also have the responsibility of making sure that you I said the food one already, but even I think there's an emotional responsibility. How often is it that if you're in a family, you have to take everybody's feelings into consideration? Because if you don't, you have chaos often, right? So then what happens when you bear the brunt of keeping everybody emotionally intact? That has to be a lot. That's a lot. It's a lot because let me tell you something. Keeping yourself in emotional, like, I'm going to be honest. For me, by myself, managing my emotional health is a whole job. Not because I'm somebody that doesn't have it under control, but because I'm intentional about how I show up in this world. And being intentional requires me to take a little extra care, be a little bit more observant, make sure I'm not saying everything that comes out of that comes to my mind. I have a filter. It requires me to listen sometimes more than I talk. It requires me to take into consideration this person's feelings, that person's feelings, so that we can have a better coexistence together. So just one person. Imagine you having a spouse and kids, or one of the other, or if you're at work and you're taking everybody's considerations around you into your factors of how you behave. It's a thing. It's a real thing. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. Yeah, you said, Julia, you said you have a planner. Yes, a planner is necessary for a lot of responsibilities, especially when you have a lot of different ones, right? So you don't forget anything. And you say you write everything down. The reality is that it's still a lot, right? I feel like I'm going through all of this, not to say, you know, I don't believe in pity parties. That's not my life. I don't throw them and I don't attend them, okay? What I will say, though, is if you feel that way, those things that I said, most of those things are part of the normal things that you deal with in and of life, right? I think where there can be some assistance is where you possibly have false burdens on you. Y'all, like, write that word down, false burdens. The first time somebody told me false burdens, I don't know, it was a few years back. And I remember thinking, nah, I just take care of myself. I just do me. Or I would say my other like default, which is, you know, if I can help somebody out, I will. That's what a good person does. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be somebody that can assist when I can. And that's still true for me. However, I never really took a deep dive into what false burdens meant until this last year. So what is a false burden? A false burden is you taking on something that really isn't for you. It really isn't meant for you. No matter how it might affect you, if it's unhandled or if it's not addressed, it's still not your burden. I'm going to say that again. A false burden is something that you're not meant to carry, but I can see how you can want to, because if it is not addressed, it can negatively affect you, and or you can see it negatively affecting people around you that you love. So you say, well, Paris, why wouldn't I want to help carry some of that if I see that it's being neglected? Well, that's a good question. You know why? Because you are not... what I want to use, I want to just give you a good analogy. You're not a, I don't want to use the word maybe dump truck, but I want to say you are only you. You're only one person. And you literally cannot carry weights that were not designed for you. I need to say this over and over again because I'm trying to tell you, I know somebody is in their head either thinking, or I know somebody is debating with me, and like they saying out loud, like, Paris, you tripping. You trying to be so cold. You trying to act like you have it together. And I'm not hearing that because I do what I have to do. But the reality of it is I don't always have it together. None of us do, right? We're growing and evolving every day. But I will tell you this, false burdens are the number one thing that can bury you if left unmanaged. And what do I mean by unmanaged? Well, you shouldn't have any on you, but the reality is most of us have at least one, if not several. Okay, and you say, well, Paris, what do you mean? You know, I have family around me, I have friends around me, I have co-workers around me. Yes, Paris, I'm a person that, you know, living in a world where you love people and you care about people, sometimes you do things that you really know is not your responsibility, but you do it to keep the peace, or you do it to make sure that you can help somebody out, or you do it because, generally speaking, if you don't address it, it's going to blow up. And I understand that. And I know the way that you're wired, you're probably also somebody that is looked at as a fixer. Am I telling the truth? Are you the person everybody comes to solve all the problems? Are you the person that people look to you for the answer how to figure things out? Do they give you compliments and say, oh, so-and-so always know how to do it. So-and-so always knows how to fix this. I'm going to go to her or him. Oh, I know if I go to them, they're going to get it together. They're going to get all of this done. Like, is that what happens? Because if that's what happens, then unfortunately, you are put in this situation where you're getting something out of this situation too, but it's still hurting you more than it's feeding you. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I used to be that person. Paris can do it. Paris can handle it. Paris always has the answer. Paris can do this. And I got this superwoman complex. That's live TV for you guys. My cat just knocked down my son's keyboard. Anyway. It's so ridiculous. I can't do that cat right now. I can't. Anyway, that's just a distraction. See, I can't do anything about that right now. I could go off. I could chase the cat. I got time for that. I'll deal with it later. I will deal with it later. But, like, I'm not Superwoman. You see what I'm saying? What I look like getting up, running after that cat right now and trying to figure it out? The keyboard's on the floor. There's nothing I can do about it in this moment. It is what it is. Guess what I did? I had to shed the responsibility of being Superwoman. It ain't me. It's not me, fam. Who, me? Paris can do it what? All? She can do all of it? No, she can't. I can't. And I don't feel bad about that either. No is a complete sentence. I'm going to help y'all say it. No is a complete sentence. Sometimes we associate no with negativity. We associate no with unwillingness to help. We associate no with not caring about a person, and that's not what it is. I talk about boundaries often because I don't think most people have healthy boundaries. And what do I mean about healthy boundaries? Every relationship has boundaries. The difference is that if you don't know what they are, they're defined for you versus if you actually define them on your own terms. So if any property owners are on here, literally, there's something called a property line. And you don't see a property line because guess what? Oftentimes, it's not like it's a big line on the grass or the sidewalk, but you can see it if you get your deed documents. So my point is that the property lines, hold on, sorry. sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties. The property lines are definitely something that you can't see, but they're there. And so that's how boundaries are. They are lines that separate and say, this is your side, that's their side, and they're already drawn there. The reality is, if you don't know what your property line is, your neighbor can build a fence on your property and say that this is my property on here, and you'll be none the wiser because you didn't look it up. And then you might say, well, it's already there, and you could tell them to take it down, but they won't like that because they're like, well, you should have known before I put it up there. And the reality is, if you did take personal inventory prior to actually dealing with that fence situation, you wouldn't have to deal with the aftermath of it. How does that relate to me, Paris? Well, I'm glad you asked. A boundary is, hey, this is my responsibility on this side of this line, and that's your responsibility on that side. And no matter how much your tree might lean over my property, it's really not my responsibility to get the tree grown. However, if the tree is hanging over and causing me problems onto my property, I have the right to either ask them to trim their tree, or I have the right to either trim the tree at my own expense. Paris, how does this relate to me? Because if you don't know what your boundaries are between a person, you oftentimes will be either overstepping and or allowing somebody to overstep your boundaries. And therefore, you're carrying something that it's never meant for you to carry. Hear me well. I'm speaking to the moms out here that are having to deal with their kids and take care of their kids. Listen, we all love kids, are blessings from God. But if we're all honest, they are a lot of work. And so you taking care of them is your responsibility. And it will be until they're 18. And let's be honest, when they're 18, you still be taking care of them. The reality of it is, there are certain things that are your responsibility, and there are certain things that are their responsibility. I'm not going to name them all right here. We can have a conversation about that another day. But depending on how older they get, all the specialists will say, all the books, most mothers will tell you that they should have some responsibilities as they get older. You know, depending on their capabilities, depending on their age, depending on their dependentness on you, there are some things that are going to make them better for them to be responsible for. And there becomes a moment where you have to transition, like from when they're a baby and you handle everything from them, from feeding them to changing their Pampers, to putting them to sleep, to putting clothes on them. All of those things are your responsibility when they're a baby, and they should be. But as they get older, there should be a shift in the responsibility. There should be a huge shift and not right away. Like maybe at first you say, hey, pick your toys up from your room. That's something you can do when they're 3 or so. Okay, pick your toys up before you have a snack or before it's this time. Help mommy clean up. These are things you can give them. Then it might become, hey, you can put your own peanut butter on your sandwich. You know, hey, you can go ahead and tie your shoes. Why am I giving these very basic examples? Because I need you to hear that some things you're supposed to do and some things you just are not. And honestly, when we're overwhelmed, it's usually because we don't transfer responsibility over when it's supposed to be. And often because there's somebody that's not carrying their weight, and we pick that weight up because we're trying to balance an act out, right? Because if they don't do it, somebody has to do it. Now, there's nothing wrong with kind of, what is that word called? Like balancing or I don't want to use the word accommodating, but over accommodating. I'm using the wrong word. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing wrong with doing that sometimes. The problem is when it happens and it becomes a thing. Have you ever started to do something at work that was not your responsibility one time because it needs to be done, and now they expect you to do it every time? Come on, y'all, talk to me. I don't see y'all talking more as much, but please tell me I'm not the only one. Because it's happened to me so many times where I've done something well, and it becomes a point of, well, because you did it so well, I'm going to put it back in your lap. And now all of a sudden, it's my responsibility along with my other responsibilities. And the person whose responsibility it was, not only do they have one less thing to do, but they are getting compensated the same amount for not doing something they're supposed to do. I'm getting compensated only for what I'm supposed to do, but I'm also doing something extra. I don't get the recognition, and I don't get any, and I'm doing something that was never supposed to be mine because I was trying to help. Julia, you said this is your problem you currently have. Listen, I know I'm not the only one. Listen, it happens so often. Oh, that's good. You say you have to report it and you need to pay me for my extra thing. Listen, it happens so often. How often does a job had to downsize from, let's say your department was 10 people and it downsized to 7, and now you 7 people have all this extra work to do, and then when they do finally rebound and get the extra money, they're like, oh, we're not going to hire 3 extra people because you guys are doing great. They never gave you a raise, and now they're learning to deal with 7 people versus 10, and it's helping them because they don't have to pay the extra 3 salaries. But then it's killing you guys because you're doing all this extra work for the same amount of money you were making when it was more people to spread the work evenly. That's not fair. It's not okay. And so in business, when they do that, it's a horrible capitalist move. But I'm trying to show you how people do it in your personal lives. It happens every day. How often is it where, you're in a family situation and you're the responsible one, and so then you're the one who does it, and nobody else steps up to do it? You don't have a problem doing it, but then it becomes a point where, shouldn't we round robin this? Shouldn't we take turns doing this? And reality is, if no one else wants to do it, you will always be the one to do it. And so it's nothing wrong with stepping up and helping, but it is something when it messes with your capacity. It messes with your load. Being overloaded is something that can really wear down on you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of it. All of it. And so it requires an assessment of what's your current load. You have to know what's on you. Most people don't get this right because they are not honest about all the things that's on them. Let's talk about that. Most people don't realize that they're overloaded because they start to inherit the idea that I can do it all. I'm successful because I can do all these things. So when people put stuff on me, it's like this performance anxiety they have about, well, yeah, I can do it all. Let me do this, that. Yep, because that makes me a better person because I can do all these things. And then now you are defining your identity by how much you do, how well you do it, how little you complain. Whenever I hear people talking about certain, let me give you an example for mothers, right? It gets to a point where this mom makes brownies from scratch. She goes to the PTA meetings. She makes her kids clothes. She does all these different things. And she also has her own business on the side. She does this. And it becomes a thing where you're almost mommy shaming the other ones when you compare yourself. We talked about comparison the other day. This is another form. How often is it in our life we silently compare ourselves to the person that's getting the most accolades in the room and start to feel less than because we don't take on all the things that they're taking on? Come on. I know. That's just one example. Or like I said, at work, how is it that you're trying to climb up the ladder, but you're like, okay, well, let me put extra hours in. Let me take more assignments on. And you know that the people that's in your group is not picking up their weight, but then you're doing it and you're literally burning yourself out to the point you ended up in the hospital. Come on. I know I'm not the only one. I know it's happened to you all before. I'm trying to let you into how it feels like the world is on your shoulders and what we can do to get out of that. Julia, you said, if you have to give a family ride, listen, give a ride, listen, honey, listen. I'm so glad Uber is here because it's a different dynamic now, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would help anybody, but like you said, sometimes people get used to you doing something. Sometimes things start as a courtesy, and then sometimes it becomes, people get used to you being the one. And so now it's an expectation, right? When things turn over from a courtesy to an expectation. So you're good. Lavelle, you said, what's the fix? Here's the fix. You need to do an assessment of what your actual responsibilities are versus what responsibilities have been put on you, or what responsibilities have you taken on that were never supposed to be yours. And when you figure out, and I mean, y'all know I talk about self-assessment all the time. Y'all know I talk about self-awareness. The reality is you have to do the work, because if you don't do the work, you will always feel like this. And then you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be on the edge of always breaking down. Sometimes I see people that's always look like they're about to cry and always having a rough day because they literally have all these false burdens on them. So the first step is to identify what is rightfully on you and what is not rightfully on you. And sometimes those things can be put on you by other people, but sometimes you can pick them up and you didn't realize you were picking them up. Again, I'm the nice girl. I'm the helpful person. I'm the one that wants to make sure everybody's good. I want to make sure everybody's good. Like some guys I hear say, oh, I'm a gentleman. I have to make sure this person does this and that. Or, hey, I'm your friend, so I have to look out and do those things. Nothing is wrong with any of those things. Being a giving person is good. But when it's to the point where it's so much on you that it's crushing you, you do have to now take an account of your personal responsibilities and figure out what you can do. So then once you take into account, so you have this list of things that you have to do, and then things that maybe you either put on yourself or somebody else put on you, and now you can go ahead and take those things that were really not supposed to be on you and go line by line and start to address them. The best way to do it, to me, is take a real life best case, worst case scenario. That's how I do things, right? So, for example, let's say if I live around the corner from my neighbor and we work together, and it gets to a point they expect me to give them a ride home from work every day. I have no problem with that, sure. But then what if when I'm doing that, they start to the point where I need to get some food, and so now it started one time with them stopping at Wendy's. Now they're gonna stop at, some place that takes 30 minutes and 40 minutes. And now I'm sitting in the car and I'm waiting on them, and then it's time to get off work. They want to sit and have conversations, and now they're abusing the very thing that I did as a courtesy for them. What do I do in that situation? Well, number one, it's a false burden. It's never been my responsibility to have to get you to work. So that's the first thing. And I probably did it out the kindness of my heart. But then an abuse happened in the relationship, and I don't know how to get out of it. So then what I have to do at that moment is make a decision. Because before you even have a conversation with that person who might or might not realize that they're doing that, you have to make a personal decision about what your boundaries are and what you're going to do in the event of both responses, like best case or worst case. Best case scenario is you bring it to that person and say, hey, you know what? I really didn't expect to do this. I'm going, I don't think I can give you a ride every day anymore. I'll do it when I can, but I really will have to, my time is short. I really have to go straight home or whatever. And they say, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? I didn't even think about that. My bad. I won't do that anymore. And matter of fact, you don't have to do that. I can get Uber sometimes, or I can figure it out. And there's no hard feelings. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is they want to go off on you. What you talking about? You think you better than me? Because you did this or whatever. You know what? Forget you, skip you. And now they have a problem with you, and they make people at work have a problem with you. That's the worst case scenario. You have to sit down and think about what's the best that can happen and the worst that can happen and still make a decision. That's the problem. So I can't be, what is that called? I can't be bound by the worst case scenario. So it moves me to inaction. That can't happen. I can't say, what if they blow up on me? And I'm so scared that they're going to blow up on me. I never address it. That's what a lot of people do. A lot of people are scared of confrontation. A lot of people don't want to go and deal with the situation. They don't want the problem of it, so they just deal with it. And now the problem is that's just one thing. If you're doing it with that thing, you're probably doing it with so many other things. And now you got all these things on top of you, and you don't know how to get it off, because the problem is not those individual people and those individual situations. It is you. The problem is you not knowing how to say no. The problem is you not knowing how to reset your boundaries. Yes, maybe your boundaries were weak when you started, but it's okay. You can always reset them. You can always switch it around. You can always change it. I promise you can. Is everybody gonna like it? No. Listen, when you Dr. Phil said, or was it Dr. Phil? I don't remember who said it, but they said you teach people how to treat you. It's so true. You do teach people how to treat you. So guess what? If you let people run over you all this time, they are expecting that. The minute that you change it up, they won't like that. And that's to be expected. And you just got to get a little thicker skin and realize that that's going to be the reaction. And then you got to realize that you have to still do it. Certain things are hard, but you still have to do it. Certain conversations are hard, but you still have to have them. Some things don't feel good, but you still need to go through with it. We got to stop bowing out of life. You can't bow out of everything. Anything that's worth it is going to be a little bit extra effort. So if you're in it and you've been in this thing and it's this rat race that you keep doing, to get out of it is going to take a little bit of friction. But guess what? It's required for you to get some type of peace. It is. It just is. It's required. So, that's my first thing. I want to read something. I always say I want conversation. So, Kiana, can we talk about how this relates to our older family members? They may be on a fixed income, but at the same time, they made choices when they were working. Kiana, that's good. That's really good. So, listen, the reality of that, and I've heard a lot of people talk about that, because when you have situations where now they're not able to pay their bills, it depends on the relationship, right? So there are a couple of choices that can be made, in my opinion. If it's like my parents, I feel like I would help them out and take care of them for their needs, okay? That's what I feel like I would do. Now, I'm talking right now. I'm not in that situation, so it's not a one-size-fits-all. I can't say what everybody should do. In my personal thought processes, if I know they're on a fixed income and they still can't take care of their needs, you hear what I'm saying? Needs while they're on the fixed income, then I'm going to assist them. Now, if their needs, to me, if they're living above their means, then I'm going to have a conversation with them, especially if I'm the one that's regularly taking care of them. I'm going to have a conversation like, hey, yeah, I know you have always lived in this 4-bedroom, 6-bedroom house, but now it's just you, or now it's just the two of you. Maybe to make sure that you can keep up with what you have, maybe let's downsize to a 2-bedroom. Maybe let's think about just getting something that's a little bit more affordable. That's not always an easy conversation. That just because it's not easy, it still needs to be had, especially if it's putting a strain on your income. Because a lot of times when you're doing that, you're having to help them out, and you're still taking care of your household. So that becomes always an iffy thing. The other part of it, I would say, Kiana, is that if it becomes a want type of thing, like if they have a gambling problem, or if they like to, I don't know, if they like to go somewhere and it gets pricey and it's not a necessity, I think that you should have a conversation with them and say, hey, I definitely want to help you to have basic amenities, but let's talk about it. And maybe let's talk about, give some ideas, in my opinion, like, hey, Just because you're retired or you're on a fixed income doesn't mean that you can't do anything. Y'all know how I feel about purpose. Y'all know how I feel about using your skills and your gifts when you're older. That's no excuse. I know people that's in school in their 70s. I know people that started businesses at 80. I know people that are still running marathons at 90. No excuses. Sometimes, you're limited, but some things you can do. You might not have to get up and go to work every day, but maybe you can crochet. Well, let's crochet some hats, Mom, and I'll put them on Etsy for you so you can sell. So you can have your extra money so you can do what you want. Hey, Dad, hey, how about this? You have a lot of wisdom. Let me help you put a podcast out talking to other men about how you fathered. Fathering is a real touchy subject right now, and a lot of people would I think I would come up with creative methods to help out, but I still would not allow myself to have a permanent crutch, become a permanent crutch, because what happens is if we don't teach people how to support themselves, we become a permanent crutch and an enabler, and then now you're trapped. And you put some, and it was easier just to give when you didn't realize you didn't create solutions around it. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if any of that works. That's just what I think. So guys, we really have to have the tough conversations. We have to say no. Guess what? Let me tell you what I learned. When you say no, I'm gonna get real close. When you say no, they won't die. I promise. They do not instantly combust. They will not instantly combust if you say no. I know you can't believe it, because I didn't believe it. I thought certain people, if I ever said no, they would literally, I felt like sometimes they would hold their breath and turn red. I found out that they could survive a no. Yeah, trick me. I said, what? You mean I don't have to do this? You mean they could say what they wanted to say and then honestly, life goes on and they'll figure it out? My God. Wow. Let me tell y'all something. I'm not a cruel person. I'm not a mean person. And if you really know me, you know I'll help anybody out. If I have it, I'll do it. If I can check on you, if I can do whatever I can, I will. But in this journey I'm taking, I value me. There's only one me. If I break me, I'm not going to be here anymore. And if I break me, I can help nobody else. And I believe God has called me to help so many people. So I think, to me, carrying a false burden and allowing it to break me is a slap in the face to God, who's put me out here to really touch so many more lives. So if I'm trying to carry the world for things that can be rightfully placed on the shoulders of the people it should be put on, then if I could do that, and it frees me up to actually walk in purpose, it frees me up to do the things I'm called to do and to help the masses, well, then why wouldn't I do that? You can't look at it as being selfish. I give the analogy again of when you're in an airplane, when they tell you that when you first get on there, before you help somebody else, put the mask on. And I used to think it was selfish, but I understand now, because if you pass out while trying to help that person, then both of you gonna die. So they're like, at least put your mask on so you can help more people. You go ahead and do it, and then you can help the person next to you. That's how you have to look at things. You have to take care of yourself. Y'all know I'm preaching self-care every chance I can. But I promise you, that feeling of the weight of the world on you is sometimes such a helpless feeling that I'm sitting here and trying to help you figure out that it doesn't have to be helpless. You don't have to be helpless. You don't have to subscribe to this is just how life is. You don't have to subscribe to this is just adulting. You don't have to say this is just what I have to bear. It's not always like that. I promise you. I guarantee you, if you reassess the things that's on you. Hey, PJ. Hey, MJ. Hey, Bombay. How you doing? I feel like if you reassess what's on you, I think you'll realize that there's some things you can remove. I hope you guys are hearing me. I'm not just talking to myself. I already am applying these things. I am. But I know that there's somebody that's feeling crushed. I know if somebody's feeling overwhelmed. Where do you think a lot of the anxiety comes from? Where do you think a lot of fear comes on? Where do you think hopelessness comes from? Why do you think some people can't get out of the bed in the morning? It's because they really feel like, I hear people say all the time, let me get on up and start this day again. Let me start the rigmarole, because guess what? It's a constant cycle, And they can barely get up because it's just literally overwhelming to them. So I hope this helped somebody. I didn't mean to go this long. I just feel like if I could share this message about false burdens and what you can do to get them off of you, I'm hoping that can help you to start a process. It might not happen overnight. You might not be able to take, let's say you have 5 things on you that shouldn't be on you. You might not be able to wake up tomorrow and say, no, forget y'all. That might not be able to work like that, because a lot of times systems are built around our dysfunction, right? I want to talk about that another day, right? So how many systems are built around dysfunction, right? And those systems have to be dismantled first before you can get out the dysfunction. That's a whole other live. But I really absolutely want you to start somewhere. Start looking at it. Assess what you do. Assess what your daily responsibilities are. Assess the things that you don't even realize that you do every single day that might be weighing you down, and see what you can take off of you. I promise you, it will make you feel like a brand new person. You'll start to realize you can breathe. You'll start to realize, wow, I can actually move differently. And then guess what? The people who love you, even if they don't understand right away, I think they will overall understand that it probably wasn't your responsibility in the first place, and they'll adjust. And guess what? Let's be honest. There are going to be some people that won't ever understand. And that's okay too. It is. Free yourself, y'all. Y'all cannot be consumed by the thoughts of people. Y'all cannot be consumed by the emotions of people. It will keep you weighted. That's another burden. Me carrying emotions and thoughts of other people about my life, I can't do that anymore. I can't, and you don't have to either. And I know it sounds harsh, guys. Don't listen. You can still be a kind person, a giving person, but it doesn't mean that you give every bit of yourself to you to the point where you can't function. Because guess what? People will allow you to give all of yourself away, and then look at you in your face, square in your face, and say, dang, why you do that? Why don't you take care of yourself? Why don't you do better for you? You need to sit down, slow down. And then you sit there like, I'm doing it for you. You got the nerve to tell me what I need to get better, but you don't care that you're pulling on me and putting extra weight on me, which is why I learned that I have to be my own advocate. I have to figure it out for myself. And it's not my and it's nobody else's responsibility. And therefore, if I have to make tough decisions, so be it. Because I love me. So, yeah, I know. I appreciate y'all hanging in with me. I hope this helped somebody. I really hope that you got something from it. Please share this with somebody. You just never know who can use it. Share it on your page or share it with somebody. And if you just coming on, the replay will be up in a second so you can watch it again. If you're watching the replay, please type replay so I can know that you watched it. I'm going to start saying that at the beginning so I can know. So many people say they watched it and I don't see them like it or say anything, so I don't necessarily know. But I would love to know who's like on with me or whatever. So thank y'all for coming on and chatting with me. I hope this helps somebody. Like I said, you know my saying, you are enough. You're enough how you are, and even if you say no, you're still enough. Even if you don't do every single thing in the world and you don't consider yourself Superman or Superwoman anymore, you're still enough. Even if you literally wake up and you only do what's literally your requirements, you are still enough. You're enough for me to love you, you're enough for God to love you, and I hope you realize you're enough for you to love yourself. Y'all know it's Thursday, so I'm off for the weekend, and I'll be back here Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please do something nice for yourself this weekend, some form of self-care. I don't care if you take a bath or read a book or research something that you always wanted to do or something that you wanted to try. Whatever it is, do something nice for yourself. Have a nice weekend. And I will see you on Tuesday. Okay? Bye.